Okay, good afternoon. Try again.
You need to move back behind the scene.
One, two.
Okay, good afternoon again. On behalf of the board and executive of Umgeni-Water, I want to extend a warm welcome to you to this briefing session where Umgeni-Water will be presenting the outcomes of its performance in the financial year 21-22. I want to thank you for making the time to be here. I do appreciate and understand that some of you had to set aside other commitments to be present, and we greatly appreciate your presence here. We want to share information with you relating to performance of the organization in two presentations, one by the acting CE and the other by the group CFO. There will be a message before the two presentations that will be presented by the chair of the board. But before we begin, and before I do the formal introductions, there's a very short video that will be played relating to safety precautions.
Welcome to the Durban ICC, where the world meets Africa. As a leading world-class events facility, we make your safety our #1 priority. Please give us your attention for a few minutes to take you through some important health and safety information. As the Durban ICC is a public space, please remember to keep your personal belongings safe and with you at all times. We have many bathrooms for you to use around the venue. They are clearly marked in the foyer and concourse areas. The Durban ICC is a smoke-free building, but we do have clearly marked smoking zones outside the main entrance and in the courtyards opposite the concourse. Please make use of these areas and the ashtrays provided when you smoke. In the event of a medical emergency, please dial the emergency number 031 360 1111 for assistance. The Durban ICC has developed a very simple emergency evacuation plan that everyone must be familiar with. Our staff are specially trained and will be there to assist you in following this plan. In the event of an evacuation, an announcement will be made to leave the venue. Please remain calm and walk swiftly to the nearest emergency exit in the concourse area. These exit doors are clearly marked. Security guards and the marshals will also help direct you out of the building. Please do not use any lifts or escalators in the event of an emergency. Once outside, you will be directed to the nearest assembly point by the marshals for your safety. Please wait at the assembly point until the venue has been cleared and the marshal deems it safe for you to return to your seats. Thank you for your time and enjoy this event.
Thank you. That was apparently a mandatory message that had to be done this afternoon. Before we begin, I just want to acknowledge the presence here and thank them for attending. The Mayor, Honorable Mayor of uMngeni, Councillor Kunda, the Mayor of Ilemba, Councillor Shandu, Deputy Mayor of Ilemba, Councillor Van Wyk. Thank you very much indeed for setting aside your busy schedules to be with us this afternoon. We appreciate that. Before I go into the other acknowledgements of presence, I just want to introduce quickly the three senior representatives of Umgeni Water, one being the chairperson of the board, and the other, the acting CE, and then the group CFO. We have with us the chair of the board, Ms. Gyapsi Matenjwa, the acting CE, Dr. Sipho Manana, the group CFO, Mr. Tami Mkonazi, okay, so as I said, there will be two presentations and one message from the chairperson, but I also want at the same time to acknowledge others who are present here this afternoon. So please bear with me. We have other members of the board of Umgeni Water present with us. With us, sector partners, Selga, Caesar Water, Nihau, also present. We have our regulator and shareholder also present, the Department of Water and Sanitation. Okay, the others also attending today are representatives of the banking sector, stroke finance institutions, ABSA, Nedbank, Marsh Africa, DBSA. We also have senior officials of uMngeni present, led by Mr. Mshweli, who's been with us, been at Umgeni as well. We have with us senior officials of Umsunduzi, Ilemba, and UMDM, Umgeni-uThukela District Municipality. Okay, so that's where we are in terms of people attending. And if I have missed anybody, please forgive me. Oh, sorry, I also need to acknowledge the presence here of Msinzi, both officials and members of the board. Thank you for making the time to be here. Right, so we go now into the business of the day. The first item on the program is a message from the chairperson of the board, Ms. Matenjwa.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Shemi, for the introductions. I'll still continue and acknowledge on my left-hand side the mayors for the executive mayor and the mayor of Ilembe, the deputy, and the rest of the leadership. And ladies and gentlemen, today is a very special day. We always talk as a board that our life is about accountability. So it doesn't end in the boardroom, it extends to the stakeholders. We are in front of you for the reasons of accountability. With us, we're carrying the message from the board, and we want to indicate what we have done correctly, what we have done correctly at 100%, maybe at an 80%, 70%, and so forth. And also here to indicate our lowlights. So the session is not about how well we have performed. It's also about what else do you want to improve as an organization. This year has had many, many moments. The year we are talking about is 2021-2022 financial year. There's quite a few memories. Some of them more on the exciting side, some of them are not so much on the exciting side. With me on my left-hand side, I have the chief executive, acting chief executive, Dr. Manana, and I have the group CFO. In my talk, which won't be long, I will maybe refer to some of the things where they can elaborate on. Before I start with the business of today, I would not be doing justice if I don't congratulate the municipalities for the wonderful work that they have done. Ladies and gentlemen, if I look at the 2022 KwaZulu-Natal Municipal Excellence Awards, City of Umhlathuze, They won various awards for clean audit, repair and maintenance, and the best integrated development plan. Ladies and gentlemen, we also have Umkambatini municipality, we have Ilembe district municipality, Mandeni local municipality, and Watuguza local municipality, all of which won awards for the best and sustained financial management. It is not a mistake that we have them as our client. It's not a mistake that we have a relationship. As I go through our results, you'll see a lot of commonality in terms of the way we manage finances. I'll continue and congratulate Ubuhlebezwe local municipality and Umgeni local municipality, both of which received awards for the best implemented service delivery and budget implementation plan. We are very proud to see such examples because to us it says some other municipalities can turn and have a look and say we can do it as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I would also like to congratulate eThekwini municipality, King Cetshwayo district municipality, Greater Kokstad local municipality, and Umzwabantu local municipality. They won awards for the best managed landfill sites. Now, it's very encouraging because when we talk about water, you don't finish the topic without talking about wastewater. So if we find municipalities that are finding it in themselves to manage the landfill sites in a way that is exemplary, it gives us hope that maybe some of our wastewater problems, some of our stormwater problems will be solved accordingly. I would like to say congratulations to them. They are leading by examples. We as Umgeni are very proud to be associated with them. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if I can get back to the business of the day. From our results, you'll clearly see that we are an organization at work. We work as a board, we work as a collective, we have targets. One of the things we're doing excellent is our commitment to the department through the shareholders compact. What we say we will do is what we do. So in terms of ourselves with the department, they are here in this room. When they look at the contract we signed with them on a yearly basis to say these are will be our deliverables, they can indeed go and tick and say Umgeni is delivered. We are quite happy and excited. Also in terms of governance, when they look at the governance itself, the board, the way we conduct themselves, the committee, they can indeed look at us and say we have delivered. We also have other areas, most importantly, let me touch at the issue of water quality. Now, the water that we are providing needs to meet certain standards. Now, we've been getting this question time and time again. What is the standard and what is Umgeni attitude towards water quality? Our response is on Sense 241. We've been testing on a regular basis, and we are testing now and will continue to test, and our results are publicly available. We are compliant with Sense 241. We have had a few instances where we've been required to test, and in some cases it has been a request from ordinary people in the public. We've gone and tested. We've went and took samples from hotels. Where someone says, I went to this hotel, I'm not feeling well, we went and we did a test. And what is impressive is that we didn't walk alone. A special thank you to eThekwini, special thank you to the department, because we went as a team to say if someone is affected and they believe that this has to do with water, let's test, bring the results so that we can save the rest of the public. I will send a special thanks, and I am aware that we have a long way to go in terms of water quality. So I think this idea of holding hands, we appreciate it, Umgeni, because as we find other situations, we should be in a position to work together and ensure that we give people the best quality. Now, moving to the area of other areas where we've performed. Last year, I was standing, I think it was in a different room, and spoke about what we have achieved in terms of the audit outcomes. And when I look at the results I have now, They're almost a copy, but slightly better. 3 years ago, when I stood here to present the results, I'm looking at this, it's like I'm looking at what I looked at last year and what I looked at 3 years ago. It's slowly and slowly improving in terms of figures that I'm showing. Some of them, it's like, you know, it's becoming a trend that when I look at the results, they give me an unqualified audit. We are quite happy because investors need to trust that we are managing the organization in a good way. So we are happy that when we look at this, it's like, oh, that's what we saw last year, that's what we saw the other year. So it means the AG is still coming back to us and saying, continue doing what we are doing. In terms of the surplus, we are sitting on 1.2 billion. And we're quite happy because out of that amount, we already have allocations. In our capital expenditure program, we're spending 13 billion. And we also have 5 billion that is allocated to developmental projects. So if you look at our figures, there's a direct relationship between the surplus that we make and the investment that we do in our projects. I have already spoken about water quality, that we are in compliance in terms of the standards, and we are quite happy. Now, our revenue is just under 5 billion rand at 4.9, and we're quite excited that we are able to use the money responsibly because we look at the revenue, but we also look at what we're sending to the customers. We're also looking at what is going to happen in the next financial year because as our customers are sitting here, they're saying, yes, you built that infrastructure, you serviced that. Will you be doing it next year? And our answer as Umgeni is yes. We have 18 water and wastewater projects. They are also on track. And the big question that we have sometimes is, as a board, sometimes we sit and we say, we think we are doing well. The AG comes through and we say, oh, AG, thank you for telling us we are doing well. We also have rating agencies. They come independently, sometimes unannounced. They get into a country, they look at entities. And they did look at us as Umgeni this year and they said, we are reaffirming you. Continue doing what you're doing because we believe in you. So we have been reaffirmed by both Fish and also Standard & Poor to say, continue doing what we are doing. We are happy because we rely a lot on cooperation and assistance from stakeholders and working together with stakeholders. The day we are downgraded, then they won't be downgrading us alone. They'll be downgrading us and our customers and those that are drinking water that originates from a bulk water that we have. They'll be downgrading parts of the province. So for us, we take some of the ratings seriously because we know that anything that happens to us does have an impact in our customers. So when we get these reports, we celebrate because it means in the international community, we are listed as one of those entities that are performing. On maintenance and infrastructure, what we have done right is to continue maintaining. We have had incidences where we've learnt a lot. Recently, we looked at the incidents in Durban Heights, and we said to ourselves, what would have happened if we didn't have an additional pump? We don't want to imagine it. We looked at the damages that happened in Aqueduct 1, Aqueduct 2, and we said to ourselves, if we didn't have additional capacity or a backup system, what would have happened? So it has taught us that we must constantly and continuously maintain the infrastructure. So it's of priority, and we've got over 400 million that was put aside in that financial year just for maintenance. We have learned the lesson. We were taking it seriously, but now it has come very close to home. And we're quite happy with the decisions that we made. Some could have questioned why we are renovating Reservoir 3 when there was no crisis. But we made the right decision at the right time. And when, like in the Bible, with Noah and the ark, we acted like Noah. We collected because it could have gone terribly wrong. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to move to what else happened in the era. We don't only have highlights, we also have some lowlights. And one of them, the group CFO will talk about it. It's the issue of irregular expenditure. We have seen a great improvement in terms of irregular expenditure, but we're still carrying the irregular expenditure from prior years. So as we look at it, it's not clearing from our books. And we can argue and say the amount is less, but for us, around, it should be at zero. So even if it's less, we're looking at the curve going down, we're still concerned because we want to eliminate it. But we're quite excited if we're looking at the initiatives. The CFO will talk about it, but collectively it's still more, because as you accumulate each year, then the figure doesn't go down, it keeps on increasing. So the group CFO will touch on it. The other challenge that we have, which is also it's a great opportunity, but then it comes with a challenge. The issue of black economic empowerment. Most of you are familiar with our program, which is a CPG program, which we've been implementing for quite a number of years. It has yielded quite a few, I would say it has developed or enhanced quite a few businesses. It has been doing extremely well in terms of empowerment. We have experienced a few challenges in terms of the work scope, which we have addressed, but where we are now, we've realized that our program that was launched in good faith for the people to benefit has then turned and is not as exciting as we want it to be. There's been an introduction of tendencies that have worked our black economic empowerment initiatives backwards. We have seen that some people have used it in a negative way. Now, the question is, what are we going to do about it? Whilst we were busy developing new policies, then Treasury sent us their own version of how subcontracting and sessions should be dealt with. Our team now, our teams both in supply chain, finance, are then looking at an enhanced BE model. We believe in empowerment, and we're going to do it moving forward, but the way we are doing it needs to change. It needs to be safer for people to be empowered. It needs to be beneficial for the organization. It needs also to be aligned with the new Treasury regulations. We are going through that process now, and we have requested an extension from Treasury because the regulations have given us a shorter period of time. We hope once we are done, we'll share the document. So empowerment will continue, but there will be a revision in terms of the way we do contract participation goals so that we are aligned with Treasury. We apologize to those who are affected, and it's unfortunate that some of the projects could not be completed timelessly because of the disruptions associated with a very good program of empowerment. Ladies and gentlemen, I've spoken about Aqueduct 1, N2, and Reservoir 3. Just to re-emphasize where we are, again, Aqueduct 1 is up and running, an average of 90 megaliters. And these days I have gone to the extent of explaining what it means, because we have our stakeholders who are very familiar with the terminology, but sometimes we stream to other platforms, social media platforms, and everybody was asking, what is this aqueduct? What is the mega, is it a megaliter, a megabyte? The whole lot of confusion. So for those that are sitting at home and looking at us, an average person is estimated to be taking 80 liters. That's an average. Now in Aqueduct 1, if we have 90 megaliters, it means we brought back 80 liters for 1.1 million people. That's what it means. So for us, it's quite significant because we've brought it back to the system, which means as we work with the Tegwini, they can proudly say what we lost during the floods, Umgeni has restored. Moving to Aqueduct 2, what is happening? Are we still on schedule? We had communicated a date of June 2023. We are still confident that we'll meet the date. The last time we visited was less than 2 weeks ago, and we found that work is continuing, and we're quite happy. Moving to Reservoir 3, what does it mean in real terms? Reservoir 3 has got 340 megaliters of storage. Now the difference is that storage means storage. So we try not to confuse people and say we are adding 340 megaliters to the system. We are storing, which means we are now even more confident that eThekwini will have water on storage, which also introduces enough pressure to the system. Now, 340 megaliters talks about 4.2 million people at 80 liters per person. Now, that's quite significant because we can look at them in the eye and say, yes, there could be problems with the system, but if we have the storage, then we will be able to assist the municipality as much as we can. So we're very excited that they're on board, and when you put them into persons' terms, see what each person is likely to benefit, it's something that is very significant. Ladies and gentlemen, we're quite happy that in other systems where we had challenges relating to floods, we were able to do the necessary repairs. Where we are not happy is that we are quite aware that although we have worked very well with the municipalities, we still have a way to go. We still have areas that still need some intervention. So our happiness ends to where we have gone this far, but when it comes to service delivery in general, we have the eagerness to do more, we have the energy to do more, and we believe that if we continue working together, there's a lot more that can be achieved. Now, on new news in terms of the highlights, a few years ago, we did a project in Bizana in the Eastern Cape. From time to time, we get mandates to go and assist. We've been requested to go and assist in Bizana. The last time we were there was in 2014. And in the Bizana scheme, there's quite a few things that we did in 2014, did successfully. We've been requested to go back on a phase 2 basis and intervene in terms of the work that needs to be done. We are doing it on behalf of the department. The work is on schedule, and we would like to announce that we don't see the work taking away the skills from the existing customers. It is a specific project, and we have the necessary skills to do it. So we'll do it, and also will continue servicing the other municipalities. We will keep the stakeholders informed of the work that we've been given, and we appreciate that the department is shown confidence in us. They could have sent anybody else, but they believe that we will be able to do it timelessly, but also continue doing the work that we're doing under normal circumstances. Ladies and gentlemen, on governance, I've touched on our resilience, I've touched on the way that we work, and also what we've been investing on. The CEO has a few slides that talk about the specific things that we need to do moving forward. Now, I've also touched on the shareholders compact and how we've performed. And we see this year we are getting into as a very exciting year. And we're quite excited that we've gone this far. And we do have a few challenges. One of them is the appointment of a chief executive officer. And in the board, we have a few committees. We have a committee that deals with appointments. They have indicated that probably in the next board meeting, they will be bringing a report. I believe they are meeting as early as beginning of February. And the contents of the report then will indicate to us on how far we are from the process. And we apologize that it has taken a bit longer than necessary, but where we are happy is that we managed to maintain the organization in a proper state. Ladies and gentlemen, we still have 2 presentations. I was supposed to talk for 2 minutes, but before I sit down, I would like to thank our minister for the work that he's been doing together with the department. I would like to thank the minister himself and the 2 deputy ministers. I would like to thank our premier. Recently, she came in person to have a look at what we were doing, which we appreciate. We know everyone is busy, but we appreciate that you'll still a few minutes to say we know you exist, because we need to cooperate moving forward. I would like to thank the former Premier and KwaZulu-Natal MEC for the cooperation and the work, and also there's a topic that the group CFO will talk about on performance and payments. COCTA has played a very a good role ensuring it as stakeholders we communicate. There's less fighting. We talk about issues of billing, we talk about issues of money. We really appreciate the work that they've done. We thank the National Assembly and especially the Water Portfolio Committee, and thank Umgeni water customers. We would not be here if there were no customers. You are dear to us, you are important to us, and we hope that we'll continue delivering good results, especially, maybe not even results, just good service. We hope that whatever was not done this year will be done next year. Wherever we've gotten a distinction, we'll go for a cum laude so that then things get to improve. We thank our investors. They say cash is king. So they are the cash makers. They believe in us. They go and say, we're giving you our money, go and work. It is highly appreciated. We thank them and also the financial institutions to enable us to be there. We know that not every business is given every account or any account they might apply for. For them to trust us, we appreciate. To the board of Umgeni, thank you so much. The late nights, the Saturday meetings, the Sunday meetings, the commitment, the dedication. And to our subsidiaries, which is UMSINSI, thank you. Umgeni Services, thank you so much for the work that you do. And to the employees of Umgeni, I have no words. They know how much they are sent to go around, they run, they drive. Specifically, we went through COVID, they came. I will never forget the fact that they came to work when there was COVID. Many people stayed away. They came. We had the looting, we were scared, but we came. There was the floods, they came. So that's just the highlights of the commitment we've seen. We appreciate the work that they do. And I would like to appreciate everyone in this room for coming. It's important to us that you come and you listen, because then you can tell if there are areas where we're not performing. We are able to be a mirror and say, again, you have done the 12 things, where are the 15? So that's the kind of feedback we're expecting from our stakeholders, so that then we do better. If there's any additions in areas we have not identified, please come to us and communicate, because we aim to do the best. And we thank everyone, and thank you, Shemi. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for that message. Before we go on to the next item, I just want to acknowledge the presence here of the Deputy Mayor of Ugu, Councillor China, the Speaker of Ilemba, Councillor Shandu, and I'd actually forgotten a colleague in charge of Umgeni Water Services, Mr. Thompson. Welcome. Welcome back. All right, we move on to the next item, which is a presentation by the Acting Chief Executive, Dr. Sipho Manana, who will talk to you about how the organization performed. Dr. Manana, over to you.
Thank you, Program Director. I think I would not want to change your protocol. I want to stand on it, because we have done so well to acknowledge the leadership that is in this session. The morning session was mainly for the media and the business people. What is key today or now is that we have got elected representatives. Elected representatives in our system are very key, because they are the ones who handhold us as officials. So in the House we may have those kinds of distinction that the mayors the deputy mayors, the speakers, the councillors who are here are elected representatives. And that has got a very different view than me and Mwelase, who are applying for positions to become employed in our roles that we do. Very much honored to be having our elected representatives as we give the detailed results of Umgeni Water. Thank you, Chairperson, and the members of the board as well for assisting us in what we shall be trying to zoom in here, but there is a report. The annual report is very detailed, and I will just be doing the headlines. I hope this is the presentation. This is well known to us because we have got customers. I think the supply area is a foregone knowledge to all of the members here, but the little brownish, or is it beige area, is the actual area where we do the groundwork. We are in our strategy aspiring to cover the entire footprint of our province, but at the moment that is where we are operating, and very much fortunate to be in the area that receives a lot of rain in the whole country. And the water services authorities that we work with here are really going to be receiving this kind of report. So the chair has touched on this, where we report in Parliament, portfolio committees, and also our own parent company structure with the two subsidiaries that we have, and the stake that we have in the water services, which is mainly our business unit that will be able to do all your PPPs and all the other Section 30 activities of the Water Services Act. So that one is still intact, and we want to fly this. All these wings of Umgeni Water are being strengthened at this point in time in our strategy to make sure that they are even much more helping the organization to reduce costs or to reduce its operational efficiency, to strengthen its operational efficiency while it reduces costs. Who are the people that have been here with us up to 30 June? We were having a small exco of about 6 at that time, but mainly you have a number of people under the skilled, technical, and academically qualified areas. That's where our project managers, engineers, technicians who are doing a lot of work, and you can see they account to almost 50% of the total headcount. We are not including here casual workers, those people we employ on a seasonal basis, and also our students. I will touch more on what we do in terms of helping the sector with training and development. I'm going to be quick on this. The chair has touched on our journey. In the 4-quarter journey, we just highlighted the areas, but they mean a lot to the customers. They mean a lot to you. What we had in Q1 when we started in July, immediately we were recovering from COVID and having all those livelihoods that had been affected and businesses affected, and we had the unrest that took us there. Then in December, with our big intervention with eThekwini Mayor and colleagues from eThekwini, the Devon Heights kept us awake. The whole board would wake up at night to make sure that we get our infrastructure rehabilitated quickly so that we don't have a crisis of water supply. Then in March, during that quarter, we then got the floods, and the floods here, they just hit home in terms of our infrastructure. Right at the doorstep, we had to deal with all of those. But we are ending the year, or we ended the year last year when we put these results together on a positive note, because the board was intact, we had support, and our systems were beginning to recover. To be a bit detailed, Umgeni Waters, because this is now a report, we are reporting to you as stakeholders, and an SOE cannot just walk around and do what it wants to do. It focuses on what the National Development Plan and what are the priorities of government coming from National Assembly, coming from the province. We have to link all our operations to the provincial master plan and all of that. So we have a vision, mission, and benevolent statements which are still with us, but the report is around the 12 objectives. These objectives are what we are reporting on. But in Umgeni Water, in line with the National Development Plan Vision 2030, you also link up with what the African Union wants and what the United Nations want, but we have a vision 2050, which we are taking all of these objectives towards. And we insist in those areas of people, systems, as well as making sure that customer value is always achieved. In a nutshell, the overall performance that we scored, I think we are happy that after some years, after 4 years, we are coming back to the 90s. We have been going down. We were holding our breath that we are not going to go to the 70s because that would not be easy for us. But we managed to come back with a 94% or 93.7%, about 6% deficit on our results, which is something we last had in 2018. How did this come about? As I've indicated, chief to our operations are the 12 objectives, and in this case, I would just not worry about where we got 100% and very close to 100%, but maybe to highlight the reasons for these red ones, starting with the one at 33%. What is that? That objective number 11, that is a housekeeping objective where we started an OD project. But because we had milestones which we didn't finish, when you report, you can't say you have done a workshop which we are still going to do in the next financial year. So we got a lot of traction around July, August, when the year had finished. But because this was a predetermined objective, you report at what you had completed at that point. So on a change management, organizational design, that is where we fell short. That is internally focused. It's not externally focused that you are hitting your customers with that, though in a nutshell, we need to be making sure that we get enough resources to do our work. The other one, which is greater, which is SO5, there is where the AG is involved, because once you have irregular expenditure noted and posted on your chart, you then are not going to get 100%. The other one, the last one, is our CAPEX spend. We have had the chairperson indicating that we didn't achieve 100% on CAPEX, and that also reads according to that. So all the others you see are accounting for the 6%, but more importantly, which the chairperson has indicated, on the product quality, on the potable water, we are still meeting the international standard of SAN 241, which means that the quality of our water is still intact. And with regards to the wastewater element as well, we are operating schemes together with our customers. In all those schemes, we are pretty discharging what is very safe to the environment as well as back to our system. With regards to our work, we did try all the time. Mayor of Ilembe, uCingisa, calls me anytime, and the next time we have a meeting. So we do try to be responsive as much as possible to the customer needs all the time, and we have got all of that was delivered in terms of million cubic liters to the customers. But more importantly, I think the engagement is much more notable, that we are able to meet. There's no customer that we run away from, or that when it calls us, we are not available. In our stakeholder understanding and support, besides the contracted meetings and all of the interactions, Ingonyama Trust is very key to us now, because the pipelines that are running through, they are also supporting us in many areas which the chair touched on, like encroachments, spatial development. Out of the 7 MTSF outcomes, spatial development is one which is affecting a lot of national departments as well as provincial departments. But in the province as well, you can see when you go to Molweni and Umgeni, how the spatial development is coming up there, and how our infrastructure can be affected by those. And we are trying by all means to even strengthen this with Ingonyama Trust and get into road shows to make sure that there is awareness, and also there is some order. If there are legal steps that must be taken, we have to deal with that with the province as well as local government. In terms of the CAPEX, we would want to also get the graph up here to make sure that we spend all our CAPEX, especially in the areas that we need to support eThekwini with. And we are aware of all those things that are waiting for us and Mr. Makanya's team and Mr. Msweli here to really work on that and make sure that we score high on, or we recover on the CAPEX, as it was an objective which we didn't reach much on. Community and environmental sustainability. In our strategy, we want to provide water in a sustainable manner and in a very cheap or economical manner. So that is where we are saying, maybe let us try by all means to make sure that in what we do, we are gaining value for the customer, value for ourselves as well. Operational optimization, the engineers have sponsored this slide for me to say, because KwaZulu-Natal has got water resources, you need not to use a lot of energy to pump water up and down. Use gravity, which is natural and which is cheaper. But we also are working with eThekwini, and we learn from each other in this. I remember the time I learned about the certain meters in Durban Heights to be maintained for pressure at Intuzuma. This is all what is happening between the customers and ourselves. And as we do this, the engineers and our project managers are making sure that we don't waste energy, we don't waste resources, but we use optimal resources of delivering the product. In terms of risk, operational resiliency in this case is on risk. We have a risk system that says once the risk is scoring over 55, look at it. You can see here that the risk that is below 55 is that one of CAPEX. Completing projects on time and within budget. And maybe one can add without any irregular expenditure. So that is where we are going, and to focus on, and also to make sure that we take care of the other risks as well. We are not going to sit and say the other part is fine, but we will be moving forward also to address those risks. In terms of the water resource adequacies, I've just highlighted here 3 areas that are important to us. I know the issue of Umkomazi Water Project, the political steering committee and the operational steering committee, or the technical steering committee, sitting on this, working all the time. The negotiations are at the advanced stages of the PFMA requirement for the WSAs to undertake those consultations. We hope this is going to really help us move forward. The dam wall at Hazelmere, Mr. Makanya, this is the promise. I was harassing people last night to say, give me the date. Don't say 2023, but let us get down to the times where we are going to be promising our elected representatives, remember, that we are able to support that. And there are other things that we are dealing with the department, Stephen Dlamini, Gobeni Dams, all of that is also part and parcel of the system of Mkomazi. To end, before I end, this is the soft part, which is my passion, where you look at employee development, getting the whole support to our employees, everybody being trained, everybody being developed, and getting people in a healthy mind. We have done a lot on that one. And I must mention that the engineers development program, if you can go around the WSAs, there are few professional engineers who have not gone through Umgeni, even professional or technologies that have not gone through Umgeni. So we are making sure that that jewel, which is our apprenticeship, our artisan programs, our engineers development program, we don't lose it. And we are now putting it in the subsidiary to make sure that Umgeni for the sector is developing a world-class learning academy. We are also partnering with institutions abroad in Germany, in Netherlands, to make sure that what we bring home within the Learning Academy, which I hope next time we will be featuring a lot in our report, and it is taking shape around Umlasi Road, where we will be having our campus. But next year, watch the space. Umngeni-uThukela Learning Academy will be up and running. And a combination of other things that we are looking forward to. We are really hoping that there won't be any catastrophic devastations to take us back. We shall have our rehabilitation of infrastructure done, and working with eThekwini, uMngeni-uThukela, and other customers to make sure that our results in terms of value is much more important, more than the one that we are reporting here. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that, Acting CE. I just want to acknowledge now the presence of Councillor Zuma, representing the Mayor of Umngeni-uThukela. Thank you for making the time to be with us. The last presentation would be by the Group CFO. So Tami Nkunazi will give you a rundown on the financial performance of the organization in the financial year under review.
I would like to also just piggyback on the protocols of the chairperson as well as the acting CE in the interest of time. Ladies and gentlemen, 2021-2022 saw significant events that had an impact on our financials. We started the financial year in July with the July unrest. And obviously that came with challenges of operations, because obviously there was lots of uncertainties around safety of employees and safety of the citizens. And then obviously we were still working on COVID-19. And we'll remember that, only recently we actually were able to then actually convene like this and not be wearing on masks. And then in April, we then were hit by floods, which also has significantly affected the entity's profitability or the ability to generate surpluses. If I have to start at a high level with the detail of the numbers, revenue generated, I think the chairperson did actually touch on the fact that we generate revenue of about 4.9 billion rand. That represents an increase of 381 million rand, and this is under the circumstances I've just explained in terms of which challenges and how we had our challenges, I think, during the year. The cost of sales increased by 178 million rands, and our gross profit increased by 205 million. But what you will notice is that whilst our gross profit increased, our gross profit percentage reduced from 61% down to 60%. I'll get to the detail of what were the causes of that reduction when I go to the next set of slides. And then if you look at our operating and administrative expenses, they went up 274 million rands compared to the prior financial year. I'll also unpack what sits in those operating and administrative expenses. And then our net finance income was up 117 million rands from 199 million. That's mainly because we actually kept some investments. Our investments increased, thus we generated more interest income. But we'll also unpack, why we have higher investments, and obviously it does touch on some projects, delays and late implementation of some of the projects. But then that drives us down to an operating surplus before tax of 1.241 billion compared to 1.263 billion in the previous financial year. That is a decrease of about 21 million from last year. We'll also just unpack reasons why we then have a reduction. But as a start, I'll first start with just looking at the volumes that we sold during the year. You will then notice that we had a 2.5% increase in our volumes. We went from 549 million kiloliters to 563. So that represents 2.5%. But if you notice, eThekwini, which is our biggest customer, had a 4.6% increase on the volumes. And then our other customers, especially if you'll notice that we lost uThukela during the year. So we started in July without uThukela district municipality. And that actually had about 13,000 kiloliters. And then we then gained King Cetshwayo district municipality on the same year. So that kind of shielded our volume losses or volume reduction, because obviously King Cetshwayo kind of substituted uThukela district. And then you do have other municipalities. Umsunduzi's volumes went up 8.9%. Gungundlovu was sitting at 1.4%. Caesar Water 12.9%. And you had Ugu district at 2.1%. And then you had Ilembe, I think, being the only entity that had a reduction in volumes of about 3.6%. The next slide tries to then unpack what sits in cost of sales. What are our drivers of expenses? Because obviously we have to take raw water and convert it into drinkable or potable water. So the big areas that we actually have to use as our drivers on cost of sales is one, chemicals, secondly it's energy, and then we have maintenance, and then we also have direct costs, which I'll show in the next slide, and then raw water. But if you look at our chemicals, you will notice that we had a 42% increase on our chemical costs. And obviously, one of the contributions in that was the high water turbidity caused by floods, but also the average price and usage per kg increased by 20%. So the price increased by 20%, and then the usage also increased by 27%. That's the reason why you are sitting with about 42%. Energy, that's the electricity, went up 2% on our side, and probably we will start seeing that increasing higher based on the fact that we've just heard about Eskom's new tariff increases, but also I think on load shedding, on some of our waterworks, we have to utilize generators, which means we are spending money on diesel as well, and thus those energy costs will then actually start increasing. I think probably when we present this again for this year, you'll probably see quite a spike in that area. And then maintenance went up 3%, and it's due to increases in labor costs as workshop operations returned to some normality following off lifting of COVID-19 restrictions, which then allowed a lot of physical completion of some of the work orders we couldn't do during lockdown restrictions. And then direct staff costs went up by 11%. The reason why the staff costs have gone up by 11% is obviously the increase over the prior year was actually caused by the inclusion of King Cetshwayo District Municipality, our new customer employees, which then contributed to a higher staff complement. So there was increase in volume based on the fact that we took on King Cetshwayo District, but also the average salary increases for our staff was 5.5%. And then obviously we do have raw water costs, and obviously with the raw water costs, it was up 3%. And then we have other operating and admin costs that actually increased by 16%, quite a significant increase. But what actually contributes to the increase when it comes to the operating and admin costs? One is the credit losses. Credit losses occur when our customers are not paying us on time, and then every month we then have to provide for impairment of that particular debt once it exceeds a timeline that we've agreed upon. Now, if you notice that in 2021, our credit losses were 174 million rands, and in the current financial year, those credit losses have gone up to 454 million rands. And I would like to make mention, since we've got our big customer here, that eThekwini municipality pays us on time, all the time. So obviously that does actually assist. So that does actually assist our sustainability, because if eThekwini had to then also delay and not pay us, I think we'll have a significant cash flow problem. But we do then also humbly request that our other customers and municipalities, start looking at those payment plans, and you start actually honoring some of the payment plans. Then obviously that's the credit losses. So you'll see that if you take the 454 million, it goes directly to our bottom line. If you had to add that to our surplus would have been 1.6 billion. Now, you then have asset write-offs and asset impairments. Now, on the asset write-offs, this is obviously one of the contributors on the asset write-offs would have been the damages that actually happened on Aqueduct 1 and 2, which we then had to account for, where we needed to then write off some of those assets that were damaged. And then on asset impairments, it's where some of the water schemes are not generating as much cash flow or revenue based on the fact that either we are not receiving payments from some of the municipalities, and that's the reason why we then have to impair some of the schemes. Now, if you add the write-offs as well, of 146 plus the 222 million, that's about 360 million, and I said 1.6 billion, that practically takes the entity back to an operating surplus of about 2 billion rands potential that we could have actually generated on our surplus. Now, you'll keep in mind that our surpluses, and I will talk more further, whatever surplus we generate, we then actually reinvest back into our capital expenditure programs, but I will actually show that on the next slide. And then finance income, obviously, is just interest that we've generated from some of the investments that we've made. But also there was a reduced borrowing costs that we had to actually account for in the current year at 10 million compared to last year at about 50 million. Then we have bulk water cost per kiloliter, which actually increased by 3%. These costs, you know, obviously they would go up as a result of obviously the maintenance costs, raw water costs, as well as chemical costs that I've already spoken about. But also, just keep in mind that we also have some indirect costs that we incur on bulk water, which we have to keep in mind. For example, we have security costs. And remember, security costs, we use a lot of security where we've got areas where we've got our pipes as well as our dams, where we've seen a lot of illegal occupations in the areas, thus actually affecting servitude encroachment. We then have to go and try and secure those areas just to ensure that people are not actually sitting or encroaching those servitudes. And then there's issues of high turbidity of raw water. I think it also had a contribution on the 3%. Then our surplus for the year. I'm using surplus. I know we've written profit there, but obviously as a state-owned entity, we don't make profit. We don't have shareholders who then take the billions and run with or take them outside of the country. Whatever we generate, we actually have to contribute back to our asset programs, as I've stated. But I think I've already spoken about the 1.241 billion rands. There's a 2% drop in our revenue. And obviously the floods that happened towards the end of the year also contributed over and above what I've just explained in terms of the credit losses, as well as the asset write-offs and asset impairments. Next is just the balance sheet. And people from the accounting, they will know that it used to be called a balance sheet, but now it's a financial position. On our financial position, you'll notice that our movement on non-current assets was slight at about 35 million rands. The big movement was 1.1 billion rands on our current assets, and the big drivers of those current assets will be one, the debtors, which is the amounts owed by municipalities in our area. But also, I think in those current assets, you'll also have your cash and bank balances. But obviously, the main contributor there will be your debtors. And then obviously we have capital and reserves. You'll see the 1.2 billion on the capital and reserves, and that 1.2 is from last year. So obviously for accounting, whatever we make as a surplus will then actually show itself as a reserve in the new financial year. That sits at about 13.1 billion. It increased by 1.25. And then obviously we've got our non-current liabilities, which relate to either the loans that we have to fund some of the infrastructure programs, which is sitting at 1.9 billion. There's a slight increase of about 86 million. And then you have your current liabilities, which is your short-term first of the debtors, of the debt or of the loans that we've borrowed, as well as our normal day-to-day creditors and suppliers. This is just a slight explanation, but I would like to maybe just explain a few things on the CAPEX capital expenditure. So you'll notice that our capital expenditure is 969 million rands, but the plan was 1.9 billion, so we underspent by about 1 billion rands if we have to actually put it in numbers. But obviously there were quite a few challenges that we've had. I think Chairperson mentioned the issue of protests and project interruptions in some of the areas. Obviously, we still were on the COVID-19 lockdown restrictions, which was limiting certain numbers of gatherings in terms of how many people can actually. So we were still, even as an entity, working around rotations, and sometimes some staff will come in and not come in, and obviously that had an impact on it. But I do think that what needs to be looked at and looked at positively is that our budget for the 2023 financial year is sitting at 1.6 billion. And as we speak, I think on my November management accounts, we're already sitting at about 600 million spent on that. So we are very much looking forward to a full spend of whatever we've budgeted for the current year. But also, I would like to then maybe touch on the fact that on the corporate plan, the 5-year corporate plan from 2023 to 2028, we have a 36, in total, we have a 36 billion rand capex program. But for 2023 and to 2028, there's about 17 billion rand that need to be spent. So I'm trying to show that that 17 billion needs to be spent in the next 5 years. That's the reason why we sit with those reserves of 13 billion rands whenever we make a profit, because we still need to chase that 17 billion rand target on our capital expenditure. The CEO also stated on his presentation that of that 969 million, it then translated to 53% of the project milestones that were met. And then we have investments. As I've stated, we've invested most of the funds that we have at 5.1 billion rands. So you won't see it at on the bank balance, because we actually take it to high interest yielding investments whilst we're waiting to spend on projects. But that increased from last year by about 1 billion rands. As you know, we made a profit of 1.2. So about 1 billion rands of that we actually have taken to investments. And then if you look at debtors days went from 56 days in 2021 to 61 days. This is also starting to be testament of the economic conditions that we're sitting at, where municipalities are battling or delaying payments, as I've explained previously. And obviously, you know, we're trying to put together payment plans with the municipalities, because we still want to make sure that we work with the finance departments to ensure that, you know, those payment plans are actually then complied with, and then we kind of reduce those days back to the good old days. I think in 2018, you'll notice that we're sitting at 47 days. And then just these two slides are just trying to show where we are with regards to our debt to equity ratio. I did mention that we borrow. So you'll see that from 2018, we're sitting at 0.25 debt to equity ratio. It's reduced down to 0.8, and this is due to a progressive repayment plan of some of the loans that we actually owe. And so we've been actually paying those loans. That's the reason why we are down to about 0.08 on the debt to equity ratio. On the borrowing limit, so Treasury does give us a limit, so we can't just borrow irresponsibly. Treasury sets a limit every year of how much we can borrow, and that borrowing limit at the moment is sitting at 1.4 billion. It didn't change from last year in 2021, but what we've borrowed is sitting at 1.1 billion, so we are within our borrowing limits. But also, I think one positive thing is that all loan covenants have been met, so we haven't breached any of the loan covenants that are actually applied whenever you have loans. And then high level on the cash flows, I'm not going to sit long on them, because obviously the balance that sits on the cash flows does not, the closing balance is supposed to be our bank account, but we do sweep all our funds into high yielding interest bearing instruments as part of our investments. And that's the reason why you see that the balance in 2022 was 67 million, and obviously the last year it was 41 million. And then, as I say, I'm not going to dwell much on the increases of the cash flow from operations. We saw that cash flow from operation went from 1.4 billion to 1.8 billion. And obviously, the contribution is more on the surplus that we actually generated in the previous financial year. And then I will talk on irregular expenditure. I think obviously it's a topic that one needs to always deal with and try and be transparent with all the stakeholders. So in the 2022 year, 7 of the 75 tenders that were audited were found to be irregular. The new irregular expenditure for Umgeni was 161 million rands. 76 million of that related to tender bid evaluations, where we found that there were errors. And then 86 million rands related to contract management issues. All new irregular expenditures for the 2022 has been sent to internal audit for investigation, because the board and management has taken a stand of zero tolerance on irregular expenditure. So there is no irregular expenditure that we ignore and say we're not going to actually investigate. Then there were 6 forensic investigations that have been completed and presented to the board. 9 disciplinary cases were recommended by the investigations, and 50% of these disciplinary cases have been completed as part of consequence management that needs to be followed when there is issues of irregular expenditure. A new chief audit executive has been appointed and tasked with the condonment process of irregular expenditure, but also setting up a committee that is going to actually draw a roadmap of trying to get to a clean audit outcomes, I think, going forward. There's training of bid committees that is to be conducted, focusing on proper tender evaluations, because that's one area that the AG had actually raised in our report. And then the new instruction note 3 as well on variation orders was amended by Treasury in April, which no longer requires the approval of Treasury. And this was the main cause of most of the irregular expenditure in the previous years for Umgeni Water. So, irregular expenditure cumulatively in 21-22 amounted to 1.9 billion rands. But this includes an amount of 1.4 billion that was reported last year. So the difference between the 1.9 and the 1.4 is actually 500 million. The 500 million is made up of 375 million rands that relates to irregular expenditure that was discovered in the previous years, which deals with multi-year contracts and multi-year projects, so we continue to spend. And then obviously there's contract management related to non-compliance with instruction note 3, that is variation orders, which amounted to 141 million. And then deviation from supply chain management processes amounted to 108 million rands. So the 161 that I explained on the first is the new irregular expenditure. The 375 is the continuation of irregular expenditure that was discovered in the previous financial years. Then just in closing, I think one of the important things that we need to always look at is, Umgeni Water has supplied in the 21-22 financial year 563 million cubic meters of potable water to the communities of mainly in KZN, barring a few districts. And then obviously we also spent 299 million on maintenance, and this represents about 6.6% of our revenue. This has been planned to increase in the new financial year to about 8%, so that we make sure we take care of our infrastructure assets, and so that we can be able to guarantee supply to our customers. And then obviously the 12 Umgeni water bulk or Umgeni water bulk water supply systems complied with the excellent level of SANS 241 of 2015 in all the 5 risk categories. I will stop there. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. CFO, for that very comprehensive presentation. Contains a lot of information. Right, we're now down to the last item on the agenda. In fact, that was 1 year's results presented in 90 minutes. An amazing, amazing job. All right, we are at the stage now where if you have any comments to make or any questions that you may have, it's your opportunity. Mr. Reddy.
Thank you, Program Director, and all guests and all protocol observed. I just thought I need to make a comment about this question of irregular expenditure. Because sometimes a person who does not understand how organizations like municipalities and even water boards and other state-owned entities operate, you think this word irregular expenditure creates a feeling that there's something irregular going on. But the fact of the matter is that in terms of the Treasury rules, MFMA and so on, any deviation from existing procurement processes becomes an irregular expenditure. So officials that serve in other municipalities, you'll know what I'm talking about. And more often than not, if you want to get work done, not everything is planned on the paper as it is on the ground. You start a piece of work, you plan it, and as the job is continuing, the contractors find issues coming up in the, on the job. And there is a variation that's required in order for the job to be completed within the short space of time. Another issue is that you have critical work that needs to be done. I'll give you one example. Let's take the aqueducts. The aqueducts that were damaged in the floods. These aqueducts were affecting 70 to 80% of eThekwini. And if Umgeni had followed the laid down guidelines and procedures in terms of the MFMA, it would have taken sometimes up to 3 years before you can finally get a contractor on site. Why 3 years? You allow for appeals, you allow for all those processes to take place, and sometimes some contractors actually frustrate the process. So it's important that at some point, because as a board, we have unpacked the whole issue of irregular expenditure. And we've looked in detail at where these were critical and where they were necessary. You know, if you are a small municipality out in some rural area with maybe 10 people living there, and you don't do anything in that municipality, you don't build any house, you don't supply any water, you don't do anything, guaranteed you will get a clean audit. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Ray. There's a question or comment from the Mayor.
Thank you very much for all these insightful presentations which give us the state of Umgeni Water as an entity. Firstly, we'd like to congratulate you for maintaining the good administration and governance, and also keep on getting the unqualified audit opinions. I think we are twins when it comes to that. We've been getting unqualified. The only thing that we need and we are looking for is just unqualified without matters. That's what we are looking forward to. The issues of economy in the country and in the world, we all agree that there are challenges. We are not doing well. So therefore, looking at the number of devastating events which have occurred in the country, which affected our city as well, COVID-19, unrest, you talk about the floods of April and in May. Really, there are many people who have lost their jobs. As a result, as a municipality, we find it difficult to keep on increasing tariffs because the best way, if you want to generate revenue, it's better not to charge people more so that they can pay in bigger numbers rather than increasing tariffs, then they don't pay. So now I would like to appeal to Umgeni. We understand your economic status, your financial status as well, but really we do not foresee a situation where as municipalities will have to put more burden to our customers. So we'll request that the consideration for zero increase in tariff by Umgeni Water is taken serious so that we can be able to continue serving our people. As we'll be doing with NESA, we'll be taking them to court, as you all know, that we are insisting as municipalities that we do not believe that the increment of 18.6% is going to be reasonable. So therefore, we'd like to appeal, as much as we understand that all of us financially are not doing as expected. We do not even have reserves. As municipalities, we used to have, as eThekwini, we used to have the reserves of more than 500 million at least annually. And now we do no longer have such, because we had to attend to floods, we had to attend to COVID-19. So we are just appealing for that, and I think working together we can achieve more. Thank you.
Thanks, all protocol observed, and greetings to everyone in the room. I think as ILEMBE, we appreciate this opportunity, so this stakeholders engagement, so that you can have a look at the status of the financial affairs of our biggest sellers of bulk water, because it brings confidence if we see that Umgeni is stable, because we mainly rely from the bulk supply that we purchase from you for us to deliver to the end users as well as the street municipalities. And we appreciate the cordial relationship as ILEMBE we enjoy and have with Umgeni on matters of Umshwati in particular, and on matters of Wamapumulo as well. And I think it is worrying though, but I think as ILEMBE will go back with our team and have analysis of what contributes to the drop of the bulk analysis supply to ILEMBE, because people need water, and the ILEMBE is dropping in terms of purchasing the bulk supply from Umgeni. Perhaps we ought to look for what is the issue with regard to that in the main. And we appreciate the profit and the kind of money that we have as Umgeni, meaning that we are going to continue to assist us with the delivering services to the people. And the M1 mayor for eThekwini is saying Umgeni is able to make so much, because it's in our clients are now illegal connections, because in the municipalities we still play with the mass with regard to illegal connections. Thank you.
Chairman, would you like to respond?
Okay. You get pointed even when your hand is not up. Okay. No, thank you very much. We really appreciate the opportunity of being invited to this very important engagement. We first and foremost would like to indicate that we are happy with the fact that at the level of bilaterals that we normally have on service delivery issues and various areas of cooperation, we do get speedy responses to the issues that we actually raise, because we believe that for us, meaning Umngeni and uMngeni-uThukela, to service our people in the manner that is impactful and assist our communities. It is important that we manage, you know, our relations quite well, and we deal with issues that relate to our communities as quickly as possible. And we should commend the leadership of Umgeni and the executives that each time issues are raised, we find solutions to those particular issues and challenges as promptly as it is normally required. But I do also want to indicate that we want to echo what has been indicated with regards to tariffs, that it will be important that we really work together in that particular regard, because our understanding of the economic situation in the country should really cause us to put our heads together and say, how are we going to ensure that the cost of providing water to our customers is kept, you know, at the level where it is as affordable as possible. Of course, we all gotten alarmed, you know, by NESA's approval of the increase to ESCOM, because we understood that that will be just transmitted to a poor customer, because as municipalities as well, we are at a point now where we would want to apply a cost-reflective tariffs. Now, if there are all these escalations at all ends, it will compel all of us to pass a very heavy tariff to the poor customer on the ground. And we should really work together in that particular regard, so that we really see how we can ultimately ensure that the poorest of the poor there get this critical service, but at a very cost effective kind of a way. We really pledge ourselves, pledge full support to Umgeni leadership and management, and we want to commit that the cordial relationship and the bilaterals that we have from time to time will continue to unfold for the betterment of the lives of our people.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Greetings to Program Director. I will just say all protocol observe. As UGU one, we wanted to welcome the presentation that have been presented to us by Umgeni, and congratulating them by getting that unqualified. And Mr. Kaunda, the executive mayor, we must indicate as well that as UGU, we've received that unqualified. This. So regarding to the engagement that we've been having with Umgeni, I think we need a lot of improvement. We are hoping that we'll continue with those engagement because our district is it's surrounded by rural areas, it's covered by the rural areas more, and there is a lot that we are experiencing in terms of the legal connections, of which we are just working on that. But as we'll be having those engagements, so that will improve the situation of giving our people water and dignified sanitation. I think we'll keep on supporting these bilaterals with Umgeni. I think with those words, we just have to appreciate even our presence here. Thank you.
throw open the floor to others. I just wanted the chairperson to respond to some of the comments by the mayors.
Thank you so much, Shemi, and we appreciate. I think there is not more of questions; it's mostly comments. But we feel that we need to attend to the issue of tariffs, and there is a cycle that we follow. But as I'm listening, I think we need to find a system where we have a discussion earlier, because what happens, we normally lock ourselves in a cycle where we're all rushing, we get the tariffs get to be done. So we'll set up a session so that when we look at it, because it's somehow connected to the illegal connections, it is connected to human, it is quite a few things that are involved. So the stakeholders are raising it strongly. We feel that we need to attend to it in a season where there is no pressure. We start now so that then we put everything and we agree as a team, because it is a legitimate concern, and we need to address it timelessly, because one of the disadvantages that we have from our side is the timing. We're still following the normal timing, but the times have become abnormal. So we then must buy more time. And we appreciate that the stakeholders have confidence in ourselves, but we do think that the issues are quite common. It's legal connections, it's tariffs, it's just sitting down and ironing a few things. That is something we're willing to do, and we are excited that we're going to get into that for the first time, that we do it as a collective and we do it much sooner, because it's important. The other thing the stakeholders haven't mentioned is the issue of energy, of which we'd like to remind them that we are working on alternative energy, and we're talking a matter of months, because we are aware that part of our system are not on the grid. So hopefully very soon will come through. They're quite tricky. You know, the diesel route brings the diesel expenses, you go solar, then they steal. So we're trying all creative routes. We have not mentioned it strongly because we are working on it, but we haven't forgotten. Hopefully in a few months we'll share some ideas and see how far we can go. And we have not also given up on interacting with ESCOM. So those are the just things that I think I want to highlight, that we are doing, we are working on it, hoping in a few months, even if we bring one system back or two, it will be an achievement.
Okay, this is a question, right.
Good evening, all protocol observed as well. My name is Noltaga Nepo from Kokta. I won't have too many, I don't actually have a question, it's just comments. Because of course, I must say we are collaborating and we do engage uMngeni on a weekly basis, and we've seen they are present in different platforms, the war rooms, the task teams, they are always there and trying to support and collaborate with ourselves and the municipalities. I think other colleagues have covered most of it, but I will just maybe put it as a challenge for uMngeni going forward, or our colleagues, so that it's something that we do work on. Firstly, I would like to say that I'm very excited about the uMngeni Learning Academy, of which we've already had engagement with uMngeni, and seeing this being highlighted in the presentations is very exciting, because municipalities are having challenges when it comes to skills and capacity. So I must commend our colleagues for really taking this seriously. And then I would like to also just put up a challenge in terms of really, I know one of the presentations did highlight the issue of the NDP and the different frameworks that we are fitting into. But provincially, I would like for us to really show the championship around the provincial water master plan, of which two of the key issues I'm highlighting is the issue of non-revenue water. I think the response has already highlighted some components in terms of illegal connections. So if maybe our colleagues from uMngeni can look into how they can support their customers, in this case the municipalities, in terms of how we can improve the situation of non-revenue water. Most municipalities sit at a around your 50% from the water that they are getting from Umgeni. And I think this is also related or somehow impacts the issue of tariffs, where it strains the relationship with the customers and an ability to enhance their revenue. So if Umgeni can try, yes, maybe it's not their sole responsibility, hence COGTA is challenging them to collaborate and try and assist in the non-revenue water situation. So I just wanted to just highlight that, because I think it is impacting also on the issues of revenue enhancement and impacting in the ability for customers to afford the changes in the tariffs. The second challenge is that I see Umgeni has an ability or has been enabled to spend 6.6% on the maintenance portion of their assets, which the municipalities are currently struggling to even meet the current put percentages. If they can be able to also support on that and maybe collaborate with ourselves, and this also being part of the provincial master plan objective, to assist the customers to be able to maintain the assets so that we can have good water and sanitation service delivery. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, are there any more questions or comments? I mean, more compliments will be welcomed. Any questions? Seriously, any questions? Further comments or any suggestions on how we could do things differently or better? If there are none, Mr. Reddy says we could call it quits. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, political leadership, again, thank you very much. I think, Mr. Msweli, there's a queue for you there if you want to.
No, this time I have nothing to say. I was saying, because after his worship has spoken, you actually can't say anything. So I'm covered.
Thank you. Right.
Before Shami closes, mayors and councillors, Uslalo is just going for a live recording. She extends her apology that she didn't just disappear. And from our side, we recognize the comments made by our stakeholder COGTA, and we have that on our radar as well in terms of non-revenue water and all the issues of maintenance budget, and also the NDP and the master plan. We are collaborating with all our customers to get the access plan, feasibility studies all done, and I think we are going to unveil that, Mayor, at our technical interactions with the various customers. But from our side, we acknowledge that, and we will continue working with the customers. Thank you.
Thank you. Political leadership, other stakeholders, again, thank you very much indeed for making the time to be here. We appreciate your presence, and we appreciate the fact that you've had to set aside other commitments in order to attend. My name is Shami Harichanda, and it was a pleasure being able to direct this program. Thank you very much indeed. And before we leave, some snacks and refreshments are being served in the room next door. So be our guest and please join us. Thank you.